Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of the Tanzu Community Edition community meeting in our APAC community. Today's date is March 10th, and we're super excited to kick off this meeting for our community members that are in the APAC area and those that might find this time better suited to them to attend. These community meetings are offered for y'all to come and meet some of the maintainers and other folks that are working on TCE. You can bring questions you may have, any feature requests, just listen in on what the team is working on, meet other members of the community, anything like that. We would love to have you join us. If you aren't able to make it to this meeting, we do have another option. We meet every first and third Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific time for other community meetings. And then every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific time, we have our office hours. So a few opportunities for you to come and join us live. Again, if you're not able to reach us, we are reachable within the Kubernetes Slack workspace and the Tanzu Community Edition channel. We're available in the GitHub discussions. We're available through, if you have a question or request or suggestion, just put it into the issue list or send us an email. When you have something that you want to discuss at one of these meetings, just put it down in the discussion topics section of the agenda for the date that fits best for you. And as always, whenever you're interacting with any of the maintainers, anybody in the community, we ask that you please read and abide by our code of conduct. If you're using TCE, we want to know how you're using it. We want you to be able to share how you're using it with the community because it helps us know more about those use cases to build better products. And then it also helps the community see how others are using TC. They give them better ideas of how they can use it as well. So we created this pinned issue and you can go and put in a comment with the details we ask of you. And if you want to be featured on our adopters page, you can include the logo of your organization and we would love to have you. So please share any details you have on how you're using TCE. Everyone that's attending today in this meeting, please add your name and then the company or organization that you're representing in the attendees list here. As far as announcements go for APAC area, it doesn't look like we have any announcements to share just yet. It's our first meeting, so we're kind of getting the hang of it. Little light start to this, but as we get the feel of it and the feel of the community, we'll have more to share in the next one. And again, if there's anything you want to see out of these meetings, please email us or find us on Slack and give us some ideas of what you would like to see in the future. For status updates from the release engineering team, I'll let Karupia take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. So so me, Aman, Arpita, and David have been working on release engineering, a lot of release engineering tasks. So recently, me and Aman have been actually working on fixing the end-to-end tests and then testing the packages on TC. So the last one that I was working on was yesterday, fixing the Azure and vSphere end-to-end tests, which was basically around recently we actually started using a newer version of Tanzu framework, and it actually uses a newer virtual machine images for vSphere and Azure. So we had to actually accept the license for Azure virtual machine image and use newer OVA for our vSphere. So that's something that I was working on recently. Apart from that, looking forward, we're also looking at how we can actually smoothen out the whole release engineering efforts. It's still a lot of a mix of manual and automated. So we are trying to actually smoothen it out all and also move from say bash scripts to completely to something like Golang. But this is all still a work in progress and more in an ideation stage. and some of it a bit implemented, but yeah, we're still like trying to improve a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
it'd
you.
actually be, sorry, I was going to chime in here. Yeah, actually, it would be really good if, like, I know Bash is great and it's wonderful and it's very easy and quick to like create something very quickly. But yeah, like it would definitely be very cool to like move away from a lot of the Bash stuff and like do it in Go so that we can, and I know like the main repo code base for like some of the plugins and stuff, we have like 0 Go tests. And so it would be very cool if we can at least move to the direction of having the Bash stuff converted to Go so that we can actually do like Go tests for that stuff. So we can, kind of get like a smoke test of like whether or not we think that a lot of the automation or release engineering stuff or the end-to-end testing stuff would, you know, survive a Go test, let alone doing like a full-blown end-to-end test on like Azure. So yeah, that would be very, very cool.
Naveen, you have your hand up.
Sure, but not to the point that David mentioned, but +1 to David's point. I wanted to see if, the images, Krupya, that you mentioned, the vSphere and all images that we're going to accept licenses for. Is that something that image names and whatnot we surface part of the release process or in the documentation, the new images that are landing?
Yeah, so actually there are two things to it. So one is, yeah, so we are also trying to fix the documentation. Whenever we bump Tanzu framework, we have to actually update the documentation to mention that for Azure, the users have to actually accept the proper virtual machine images license for a given, say, PC 0.11. There'll be a particular version of Tanzu framework and a particular version of Azure virtual machine image being used from the BOM. So the document has to be updated accordingly, and docs. And in the end-to-end test, we actually need to actually put a fix where we actually automatically get the virtual machine image name, which should be pretty straightforward because for management cluster and workload cluster, we have dry run feature. We can use that and get the image name from YAML. We still haven't done that though. This has been an
Did Krupya broke?
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying like this has been an idea for a long time, but yeah, we still haven't like implemented it. So we still have to do that. For vSphere, I think it's a tricky thing because as of now, we create our virtual machine images like internally and like public. We don't yet publish it all like in a public thing. So we have to actually use a downstream pipeline to actually upload it whenever we have a new virtual machine image for vSphere. And in the future, probably I think we'll find a different way to do this. But as of now, it will be like something that we have to do something downstream. Whenever we get the newer Tanzu framework, we have to just somehow automatically upload from downstream to our vSphere test environment. So,
Sure, but the operation has to be repeated for any other trying to do the cluster lifecycle with new TC release. Besides, one of the things that I found tricky is, having found the name of the OS image, accepting a license is very well documented for each cloud provider, but finding the name of that OS image from the BOM is not documented. So I was hoping like if we can have some script or something which reads the BOM and page to the virtual machine images that are new for this BOM that needs to be accepted would be very cool. And then even the documentation team can use that to refer those images in the doc.
yeah, that's the idea. As of now, I think even BOM is tricky because Tanzu, Tanzu is very configurable. So you can actually even mention from where to pick up the BOM, a different registry and whatnot. So the idea is basically to use Tanzu itself and then finally get the dry run, and which would tell exactly what virtual machine image would be used. But yeah, as of now, my plan was only for end-to-end test. But of course, ideally to be able to automatically update the documents, the docs also, it would be useful here. But yeah, to immediately do it, we are doing it manually in docs. But yeah, the idea has to be use one automation and then use it for the end-to-end test and also for the docs. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
I would even float this idea out there because that is actually very awesome. It almost seems like we should have that functionality in like Tanzu CLI and be basically saying, hey, these are the assets that you're dealing with. And like you run a command and it says like, you know, this is the version of the OVA, this is where it lives and stuff like that. Or these are the AMIs and these are the AMI IDs. I mean, that would be very, 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 very useful. I mean, even just for my sake, like instead of like having to like run, this is what I normally do is I run like a management cluster create and I intentionally exit out. I go look at the bomb and try to figure out all this stuff. But if you had like a command that just said like, yeah, if you had a command that just basically like Tanzu CLI version, like, or version assets or assets versions or whatever, right? So it just dumps all that information like to you. I think that would be very cool, like in an easy to consume way. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. As of now, the dry run feature I mentioned, it's more of a internal detail where we get the whole YAML that will be used to actually create the cluster, and we have to look for this detail. It will not be exactly a human readable format. So yeah, this would be a new idea, like where we get the names of say Amazon machine image or the Azure virtual machine image and things like that, based on the cluster config that we provide and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments or questions before we move on? Okay, we're going to move down to discussion topics. How does the TCE engineering team test cluster deployment manually? What steps do you folks follow? This is respect to a few different GitHub issues listed out. This is to understand if the release engineering team has a similar approach or different approach to test cluster deployment, and then things like package repo addition, package installation test. Who put this in, and is there any more context you want to give before we start the discussion?
Yeah, I put this in. Yeah, I just wanted to understand. So I've noticed this before, like as in the core team does some tests manually. So I just wanted to understand how they do it and like, you know.
Yeah, for like I can just speak to how I do it. It is literally if I want something stable, I use like a release that's out there. So like currently 0.10.0. And if I'm looking for like to verify new functionality, I literally just do a make release, which basically builds all the tarballs for all the versions, like, the platforms and the architectures that we care about, and then run the install script to install, like I usually use a Red Hat 8. So I have like a CentOS 8 system, and I just run the install script. And then from there, it installs Tanzu CLI. And then I like literally the first thing I do is like management cluster create. And then the next thing I usually do is, just unmanagement cluster, although I've only used it a couple times, just create an unmanaged cluster. And I just create one of those. That's kind of like what I do for my sanity check. But yeah, that's like manually what I do. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, that does that.
Okay, seems like we're all wrapped up with that discussion topic. Anything else that the team wants to talk about before we end this meeting?
Any other topics that folks would like to see from release engineering for the next meeting? Anything specific?
I mean, I would just be interested in like the highlight of like some of the work that's being done, because I know you guys you do a lot, over there. And so, very interested in like some of the things that you think are very cool and interesting. Um, Even some ideas that you might want to kick around, like, hey, like maybe we should do this or collaborate on that. Not just for us, but like even for the community at large. So like, yeah, I would definitely be interested in hear your thoughts about like what you think could be like benefit, the project, and like, or even like your efforts to, like accelerate some of the stuff that you're doing.
Sounds perfect. Sure. Thanks, David. We'll prepare for that for the next meeting.
Great, thank you. All right. Now, just one last call. Anything that's popped up that you want to talk about before we part?
Hey, just want to say excited to be here. Is this the first APAC community meeting for TCE? Awesome. It's good to be here. Would try and attend more of these and keep hearing from all the great work that you guys are doing. Just congratulations on having this first meeting. I think it's a great start.
Yeah, thanks, Renu. And for those that don't know, she is engineering manager working on CAP for Carvel. And she is also based in India. And super happy that you were able to join us today.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining at our first APAC community meeting. And the next time we're going to meet is Thursday, April 14th, 9 a.m. India Standard Time. If you are watching this from home and you have some feedback or any ideas you want to bring up with how we improve this meeting, what you'd like to see in the future, or if you have any discussion topics you want to bring up regarding TC, please join us. We would love to hear from you. And with that, have a great time and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right.